Anyway, now let's get to the Democrats. Why aren't the Democrats doing anything? By Leeja Miller.
Trump and his cronies, including unelected, deluded, low IQ, ugly, socially awkward, loser, dork, billionaire Elon Musk, are stripping people of their rights, placing people in camps, invading our privacy, and gutting the federal government. And to those of you in my comment section saying personal attacks and name-calling undermine my arguments, no, they don't. No, they don't. I can bully Elon Musk and create sound legal arguments at the same time. Watch me. And yes, I'm going to be saying swears a lot in this episode because I'm mad. The uncensored version is available on my Patreon linked below. And in response to this tyranny, this all-out war on democracy, on the very foundations of our country, of the rule of law and of the Constitution, our lawmakers are, sending strongly worded letters, tweeting, holding press conferences. I don't know about
Hasan, you're playing dumb. It's not about teleporting. It's about scaling up your operations. Scale the logistics of HasanAbi Productions. That's all I'm asking. I'm still responding. Stop fucking ignoring me. Scale up your operations. That's all we're asking. Okay. I'm going to respond to this the last time. Okay. Considering that I am currently doing news commentary for 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is the only thing I'm good at, and it's the only thing I've done that I've actually been able to scale up within the bounds of reason, okay? When you ask me to scale up my operations, what you are demanding is that I go and I hire managers. I maybe go to private equity to actually go and get more capital and be beholden to a constant profit seeking by banks and other investors that are now tasked with growing this operation. I go and I hire journalists all around the country. I spend a good deal of this time not doing commentary, but instead management. I'm not good at management. I cannot do management, okay? You want me to become a corporation. I'm not good at that. I'm good at this. That is precisely why I do this, okay? Not if you're smart with contract law. What the fuck are you saying? Shut the fuck up! Let me become smart with contract law.
About you, but it feels like, not enough. Today, we're going to talk about what the Democrats are and are not doing, what they should be doing, and what to do about all of it. Let's get into it. But first, a very big palate cleanser. It's almost Valentine's Day, and whether you're partnered up in a throuple, single, and ready to mingle, or in a never-ending series of situationships, you deserve to celebrate. And listen, in these trying times, finding anything to celebrate is a major win. What better way to celebrate love than with the most comfortable underpants of your life? Thank you to MeUndies for partnering with me on today's video. MeUndies offers insanely comfy and sexy underpants and loungewear to buy or gift this holiday season. They have something for everyone, from basic black to fun prints, and you can get a matching set for yourself or get a set that matches your partner or even your pet. And they have loungewear too, including joggers, hoodies, onesies, and more. It's comfy, it's responsibly sourced, and hey, if you don't love your first pair, it's on MeUndies. That's how confident they are, and I am, that you'll love your MeUndies. But how could you not love them? Look at this sassy little Kiss My Peach set I got. We're keeping it PG here, so calm down, but just know they're flattering and comfy as heck.
No, I'm not raging so hard I forgot I'm watching an ad. This is a day ago from Leeja Miller. It's Ethical Reacts. Okay, of course we're going to watch her ad. We're watching her video
This Valentine's
overall.
Day, give the gift that'll always have them thinking of you and get 20% off your first order, plus free shipping at MeUndies.com/Leeja and enter the promo code Leeja. That's MeUndies.com/Leeja. Enter promo code Leeja. Thanks, MeUndies. So let's get the lay of the land here, because as I keep saying, the point is to overwhelm us to the point of not caring. So we need a big picture moment to understand where we are. Trump passed a ton of executive orders right away after his inauguration. I went over all of them in a previous episode. They then started an avalanche of administrative actions that agencies under Trump within the executive branch are making in order to carry out his executive orders and proclamations. Those are things like the order to expand expedited removals of illegal immigrants, the the closure of USAID, the creation of Doge with loser Elon Musk at its helm, despite the fact that he's not appointed or elected and is just acting in his individual private civilian capacity, and acting illegally to gut as many federal programs as possible. Lots of lawsuits are coming down the pipe to stop Doge, to challenge the end to birthright citizenship, and so much more. So that accounts for 2 of the 3 branches of government. Trump and his loyalists and government agencies are shutting down, freezing spending, and gutting agencies of their institutional knowledge and personnel. Within the executive branch, lawsuits are being filed by state AGs, private citizens, nonprofit orgs, and more, and judges are using their injunction power to stop various of Trump's orders from going into effect until these lawsuits play out. And while it is incredibly tedious and slow, it is that injunction power that is standing in the way of a lot of these things from playing out. So the judicial branch is doing its part in the checks and balances scheme to step in where it can as Trump continues to overreach. So that leaves one branch, one sad little useless, limp branch that doesn't seem to be doing much of anything in its checks and balances powers to counteract the actual insanity unfolding in the executive branch. And that's the legislative branch, where our legislators, the ones we elected to represent us, the ones who are supposed to be the essential part of the democratic workings of our government, where they sit around with their thumbs shoved up their asses doing jack shit to stop any of this, all while lamenting, well, we just don't have a majority.
Leeja is also a lib, like, for the most part. I really like her commentary, but like, she certainly is I think closer to the Democratic Party than myself. Okay, so for her to provide this blistering criticism, I think, is a pretty solid read on how a lot of regular institutional Democratic Party voters, I mean, she's not fully on board with the Dems either, but she definitely is like an active supporter who does not shy away from openly stating that she likes the Democratic Party. I think she's more left than you think she is. Yeah, I mean, yeah, she is definitely more progressive than the average Dem. But having said that, I think she is overall. I think she's overall like, yeah, 100. Like Elizabeth Warren Dem is a good way to look at it. Yeah. But regardless, her commentary is solid always, okay? And that's precisely why I rely on her coverage and her commentary on a regular basis. Now, having said that, I think this is a fairly decent assessment on even people that are, on the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, feeling a little angry with the Democratic Party.
Oopsies, sorry, guess there's nothing we can do. Or playing lip service to our outrage through strongly worded letters to Marco Rubio or some shit. The classic trope I've talked about before. Republicans openly violate the laws in the Constitution, and then the Democrats say, hey, but you can't do that. So here's a basic rundown of what Congress has done since Trump was inaugurated. The Senate has confirmed 13 Trump appointees and passed the Laken-Riley Act, the first official law Trump has signed. Laken-Riley was passed with bipartisan support and allows for the complete suspension.
This was so unimaginably. She's the type of person who thought the January 6th Commission was going to do something. I don't know about all that. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. But the Laken-Riley Act being passed with bipartisan support was so incredibly cruel, so ruthless, so ridiculous.
Of due process rights for undocumented immigrants accused of crimes. Not just violent crimes, but also theft. Reminder that we give due process to everyone in this country, at least in theory, meaning notice and an opportunity to be heard by a judge, the right not to be held indefinitely without a trial and forcibly removed from the country. We give that to everyone, including those accused of even the most heinous of crimes in this country. But the Laken-Riley Act, combined with Trump's executive orders declaring an emergency at the border and pausing all immigration, including of refugees and asylum seekers.
Yeah, the fact that it had no resistance is so sad and disgusting. No resistance. It's worse than that. There was support. That's what makes it so insane. Support from the Democrats. On basis of something that the Democratic base cares about, which is bipartisanship for the sake of compromise and nothing else. The fact that this was presented as a bipartisan bill, and the fact that Democrats passed alongside, like Democrats offered a veto-proof majority, a filibuster-proof majority by voting for it, was insane. Why wouldn't they support it? First of all, they should support nothing that the Republicans are advancing. If Republicans, when Democrats are in charge and they advocate for bills that actually Republicans want, the Republicans still obstruct. That's number one. Why do they do that? Because there are only benefits for obstructing in this partisan way. Okay? But number two, for this bill specifically, it is an incredibly cruel bill that denies due process on the basis of your documentation. Okay? If you are suspected as an immigrant, both documented or undocumented, if you're an immigrant and someone suspects you of stealing, ICE can come and detain you permanently and deport you. Okay? This is unconstitutional. It is completely unconstitutional.
Seekers and the resulting agency actions like the expansion of expedited removal all provides for a blanket suspension of due process rights for immigrants of all kinds, including those seeking and using legal means to be here. The elimination of due process rights is a key ingredient in fascist takeover because it allows for human rights abuses to go unchecked and tends to be directed at vulnerable minorities because people already hate their fucking guts, so it's easy to turn a blind eye, whether they're Jews in 1930s Germany or Mexicans in 2020's America. And the Lake and Riley Act passed with bipartisan support. 12 Democratic senators and 46 Democrats in the House voted in favor, along with every Republican in both houses. Here's the list of Democrats who voted in favor. If you are their constituent, you should be the most annoying person on the planet for them right now. Get to work. The House, for its part, has introduced a ton of bills, many of which are symbolic and will not even make it to the floor for a vote, 25 of which have passed and gone on to the Senate, and that's about it. Those Senate and House minority leaders Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries introduced bicameral legislation this week to try to challenge Doge and Elon Musk by preventing unlawful access to the Treasury Department's payment system, which Doge operatives took over last week, as we talked about in my episode on Monday. They called their new bill, wait for it, the Stop the Steal Bill. They were very proud of themselves when they announced the name and received some chuckles from the audience.
We call our legislation Stop the Steal.
And that's when it hit me. Oh yeah, part of the reason why Democrats aren't getting done is that legislators are a bunch of nerds in suits, and many of them are old as dirt. Of course they don't know how to talk to the American people or create a cool, engaging social.
Yeah, the older you are, the more seniority you have in the party, which means the longer you have actually stayed in office. The longer you've stayed in office, the more out of touch you are from the average person. In theory, the longer you've been in office must mean that the longer you've actually talked to your constituents. Is the exact opposite. You get tunnel vision. You get bubbled into this. The only access you have to the outside world is oftentimes lobbyists that are there to push for a corporate agenda. So they are just completely delusional to the needs and wants of the average American. Okay?
Social media campaign and are terrified of youngsters coming in and using unconventional tactics to get done. Also, they're probably sleepy because most of them should be in retirement homes at this point. Theoretically, they would hire PR people to make up for being big giant dorks, but I don't think they'd know relatable, cool messaging if it hit them across the face. And Republican lawmakers are also dweebs, but so are their constituents, so it works. I think I've solved the problem, guys. Everyone can go home. The literal only reason we thought Kamala was cool was because of some sweet fan cam edits on TikTok. She certainly didn't convince us on her own after literal decades in public office. Took some lefty weirdos getting control of her TikTok account to win any of us over. Did it get her elected? No. Obviously, the entire messaging problem on the left that has alienated a huge swath of the working class and other groups that would historically fall under Democratic umbrellas cannot be solved by a slick TikTok campaign. But as it is, these Democratic lawmakers are speaking to literally no one except for a few politicians policy wonks and some boomers. A couple of younger representatives have come down the pipe and actually feel inspiring and know how to speak like humans. AOC, Jasmine Crockett, Katie Porter. But name me a single cool Democratic senator that can speak like a human and makes you excited about politics. I'll f***ing wait. They got Cory Booker on the social media game. Literally, Chuck Schumer confirmed, according to Mother Jones, that Cory Booker is in charge of the Senate Democrats' social media, with the New York Times reporting, and I quote, "Last week, Mr. Booker delivered a PowerPoint presentation to fellow Democrats about how to deliver their message online. In the slides, which were obtained by the New York Times, Mr. Booker offered his colleagues guidance on how often to post on each platform. Instagram once or twice a day, Facebook once a day, LinkedIn 3 to 5 times a week, X
This part is so crazy. Like Cory Booker is like an alien, dude. Like, no disrespect. Some people just don't have it, you know? It's crazy. It once again shows me that, you know, it just shows me that we're just completely removed. Like, the Democrats are so removed from the needs, wants of the American public. Okay, but like, this is decent social media training for boomers, or at least their staffers.
2 to 5 times a day, TikTok 1 to 4 times a day. Like, their social media strategy is about how often to post. This is you learn in like a poorly made intro to social media management for dummies course. Cory Booker is a fucking dork, guys. We have nothing to work with. And because much of the high-profile work is being done by the Senate because of their role in confirming presidential appointments, a lot of the focus and ire is on the Senate. So while House members definitely play a role in counteracting the horrors coming from the executive branch, it is the Senate where a lot of the work is to be done. And no, I'm not talking about introducing silly, fun, cool, tongue-in-cheek legislation like the Stop the Steal Act. We all know that the bill is dead in the water. It's being done for show, and so that our legislators can point to something and say, see, we are fighting back. Meanwhile, we're all out here getting fucking annihilated by breaking news story after breaking news story of some new horrific thing Trump and his cronies are doing, while our lawmakers chuckle at sassy names for bills no one will read or pass. Get a grip! I think there's a time and a place for introducing snarky legislation. This is not one of them. This is not business as usual. This is not a simple, well, we'll get them again in 2 years. Yes, the midterms will be important, but we need to actually have a functioning fucking government to hold a...
You said the Democrats are marketers, but they're not even good. The Democrats are literally just marketers. They don't do actual work. They're always selling an idea. Yeah, but they're not even good marketers. They're marketing a product that no one wants.
Elections in the first place.
And they're not even doing a good job marketing said product. That's why they are unimaginably unpopular right now.
Trump is causing damage at breakneck speed that will cause years of chaos and rebuilding. This is mission critical, all hands on deck shit, and our legislators are sitting on their hands, shrugging their shoulders, despite the fact that Trump is following the Project 2025 playbook word for word, line by line, the playbook they've had access to for a year and a half at least, and yet they did apparently nothing to prepare for. I made an episode ringing alarm bells about Project 2025 in September of 2023. Why are they just now starting to realize that, maybe this is pretty bad? Literally just this week, I think they're starting to get the memo, with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries sending out a 10-point plan to counter the hostile takeover of government we're seeing, and even that is pretty weak. One of the 10 points is the Stop the Steal Act I just talked about. They also include calls to increase efforts to communicate with the American people about how awful everything is, with zero concrete advice on how to do so. The only real tangible plan they have at this point is to challenge the appropriations process that they'll go through in March. Remember how the government almost shut down and they kicked the can down the road to keep it open? Well, they kicked the can to March. And because appropriations bills require a larger majority to pass, Democrats will actually have some sway in that process, especially because there are some Republicans that just straight up will never vote in favor of an appropriations bill because they believe the government shouldn't spend any money at all. And until March, I guess the plan is...
Yeah, like gift after gift handed to the Democrats. Like ridiculous executive orders that your job is to communicate how ridiculous they are, to get media coverage surrounding it. A group of Republicans that are in the party that refuse to abide by the wishes and the best interests of the party. You have all of these wonderful opportunities to make a big stink. I'm not expecting the Democratic Party to overnight become revolutionary Marxist-Leninists that are trying to build a militant vanguard. Okay? I'm just saying, be a competent fucking party. Be a competent liberal party. Right now, at this stage, they are not even a competent liberal party. That's crazy.
Is tell people things are bad. Even Democratic governors hopped on a call with Chuck Schumer, according to reporting for the New York Times, literally begging him to get the senators to do something to stop the onslaught, suggesting better media and messaging strategies, and lamenting that they, the Democratic governors, are bearing the brunt of angry calls from constituents while also being the ones heading up a lot of the legal battles as well. And old Chucky Schumer was like, well, I can't force anyone to do anything. Plus, Cory Booker's doing a great job with the social media. Pathetic. Okay, so that's the lay of the land. Executive branch, fuck it up. Judicial branch, the one string holding back the worst of the onslaught. Legislative branch, dog shit. The good news is that at least in theory, the legislative branch is the one most responsive to the people. That's us. And as much as the moneyed interests do control our elected officials, the one thing they fear, probably even more than losing money, is losing elections. And if you understand that their main and all-consuming goal, the thing that they think about with every vote and every public move they make, is re-election, you can start to understand how to leverage that as someone who votes on whether or not they get re-elected. But we can't apply pressure if we don't know what to pressure them to do. So what could Democrats, especially in the Senate, be doing? Well, we know it's not passing legislation. Their minority status and partisan gridlock means that's nearly impossible.
I think the first step is obstructing every step of the way, even if it's like seemingly a good thing. Okay? Just obstruct, obstruct, obstruct.
Gumming up the appropriations process in March is also something they should definitely be planning for. They absolutely should be hiring better social media managers and talking more publicly about how awful things are. But the real way for Democrats to fight back, to get down and dirty and make the day-to-day passing of bills and Republican tomfoolery slower and more painful, is by wielding the bureaucratic, mundane, day-to-day processes of Senate sessions.
100%.
What the organization Indivisible calls procedural hardball. A lot of what I'm about
100%. This is also part of the reason I am completely in agreement with Leeja here. This is also part of the reason why I get really annoyed with like liberal commentators, not Leeja. I'm saying like the liberal naysayers who will regularly just defend the Democratic Party instead of demand that the Democratic Party do more. Okay? Liberals who are tasked with defending the Democratic Party are always playing catch up. And they constantly will yell at people like myself. They'll say, Hasan, you just want like incredible pie in the sky ideas, right? You just want the Democrats to be socialist and radical Marxists or whatever. It's like, no, I'm talking about the minutia, the day-to-day operations, things that are within the realm of Democrats' possibility, things that are entirely in their control. Things that they're refusing to do. Okay? That's the difference. I understand process. And that's why I regularly criticize the Dems when they're in power or out of power for not utilizing the process or claiming that procedural hurdles sometimes undermine their agenda when they can so easily do away with it, like the Senate parliamentarian, for example. Okay? That's it. Those guys don't understand process. They don't know anything. They're just there to fucking defend the Dems, which is weird because even like MSNBC has a better understanding of process and will do a better job of talking about the Democratic Party than the average liberal influencer who is tasked with defending the Democrats with very limited knowledge. That's why they're wrong all the time.
About to talk about is from Indivisible's explainer on how Democrats can play that hardball. It's linked in the sources in the description. The day-to-day functions of the Senate include huge amounts of standard protocols, business as usual rules and procedures that provide a veritable treasure trove of opportunities for Democrats to take actions that will provoke.
This is why I love David Dayen's work initially at the American Prospect. David Dayen put out like a 150-point plan on what the Dems could do with executive orders. Like how far the Dems could take it. You know? Wait, what just happened? My chat broke. Something that I regularly pointed to as far as like what the Biden administration can do, right? Of course, they didn't really do it. Yeah, they had an executive action They had an executive action tracker. Like, this is boring process shit, okay? Out of 111 actions, there are 23 yes, 19 partial, 6 no, and 1 no longer applicable. Like, there are plenty of people who are very progressive that urge the Democrats to do the right thing for free. They're putting this out there, okay? They're putting this out there for free. If the Dems would follow through on any number of these different suggestions, they would be infinitely more popular.
Time-consuming, incredibly boring procedural actions that will eat up valuable floor time and make the process of getting anything done absolute hell for Republicans. Republicans are trying to get federal employees to quit by making their jobs a living hell. Democrats can do the same to Republicans on the floor of the Senate. Specifically, there are 3 tactics laid out in that indivisible explainer that senators could take. Number 1 is simple blanket opposition. Every nominee, every resolution, every yes-no vote that furthers Trump's agenda, it's a no. Even if the nominee seems like a reasonable Republican, they are still being put in place as a Trump loyalist, it's a no. Democrats have been voting yes on certain nominees, and there needs to be consensus among the entire Democratic caucus that it's a no vote every single time. Taking this a step further, there are ways for Democrats in their individual committee roles to muck up the process further. Democratic Senator Brian Schatz of Hawaii is doing just that. He's on the Foreign Relations Committee, and in response to the shuttering of USAID, he's placed a blanket hold on all of Trump's State Department nominees. Marco Rubio has...
Repeating exactly what you said? Yes, because she's correct, and so am I. And this is... You know what this video is? It's 22 minutes of Leeja saying... Democrats should behave like Republicans when it comes to playing politics. Okay? That's it. That is the message that I have had as well. Republicans play politics all the time. They play hardball all the time. They do it very successfully. Okay? Democrats don't. They're constantly seeking out bipartisan compromise for no reason other than the concept of bipartisan compromise being a virtue in and of itself. That's it. There are no tangible policy goals attached to it. They just simply do compromise for the sake of compromise alone. It is ridiculous.
Has already been confirmed as Secretary of State, but every official below him, from his deputy to major ambassadorships, have not yet been confirmed. By placing a blanket hold, Schatz isn't completely blocking the confirmation process, but it requires Republicans to jump through a number of additional procedural hoops and waste valuable floor time to get any new person confirmed. It slows down the process. And that valuable additional time gives all of us a chance to breathe and a chance to respond and react to each new thing instead of it being a constant onslaught. Blanket opposition, combined with tactics like blanket holds, will show a united front within the Democratic caucus and will help to slow Republican actions even if they can't stop them completely. Next tactic is weaponizing quorum calls. Technically, according to the Constitution, the Senate cannot conduct business unless there is a quorum present, meaning a majority, meaning 51 senators. However, in reality, there is hardly ever a quorum actually present, but typical Senate decorum, the friendly thing to do, is for senators to not ask if a quorum is present before conducting official business, because if it is officially established that a quorum is not present, the work of the Senate grinds to a halt. They can't do anything, and they have to either adjourn for the day, or the sergeant at arms has to literally call senators back to the Senate floor and forcibly retrieve them. What's fun is that any senator can call for a quorum check at any time. Calling for a quorum check forces the clerk to do a roll call of all 100 senators out loud. If the roll call is finished and a quorum is not met, the Senate cannot proceed. So Democratic senators can call for quorum checks, forcing Republicans to prove they have a quorum anytime they try to do anything. They can also stage a walkout, assuming that there are some Republicans.
How can you stop Elon? Okay. There are a number of different committees that Democrats sit on. They can use those committees to open up investigations into Elon Musk. Republicans have done this for infinitely sillier shit. Republicans literally did this to basically beef up the lie that Hunter Biden, for example, was somehow connected to Joe Biden, and the entire Biden crime family was doing crimes. This was a falsehood. They knew it was a falsehood, which is precisely the reason why they didn't do open door meetings. They did closed door meetings instead. And then they would leak details to Fox News with the hopes of lying to the public even further. Okay? And under other circumstances, they also actively undermined Hillary Clinton with the Benghazi investigations. It was more costly and more time consuming than the 9/11 Commission. Okay? That's how much they actually spent time on Benghazi, making it seem as though Hillary Clinton deliberately murdered like 7 fucking diplomats or whatever in Benghazi, if you remember. Kevin McCarthy famously took credit for ruining Hillary Clinton's credibility by keeping her preoccupied with the Benghazi meetings. Okay? Like, he openly said it. It wasn't a lie. This is a real thing that they admitted. Benghazi was a valid investigation that was weaponized against Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party. And the Hunter Biden stuff was not a valid investigation that was weaponized against Joe Biden. Okay, I'm giving you 2 different examples. One is a real thing, okay, and understandably investigated, even though the degree to that investigation is obviously political. The other is a ridiculous investigation that was built around a falsehood. Okay? Democrats could do both if they chose to do so. Democrats could at least do valid investigations into the likes of Elon Musk, for example. Go after Jared Kushner's business dealings. Those are valid investigations. Those are worthy investigations because there's violations there. Okay? That's it.
Not present, which usually some aren't, meaning that there would not be a quorum present if all Democrats leave the Senate floor. But even if technically there is a quorum present, they can still call for a check at any time to gum up the process. This will be incredibly boring. It will make Republicans' jobs really boring and bad. It'll be so annoying, and it'll go against decorum and protocol, and that's the point. And then the final tactic is blocking unanimous consent. Unanimous consent is used to skip over procedural requirements involved in things like setting dates, moving things on the schedule. Pretty much nothing can happen in the Senate unless there are no objections. But by saying unanimous consent, they're assuming there are no objections and they just kind of jump over that. Senators request unanimous consent for things to happen, and usually there's no objection and things move forward swiftly. I imagine you can see where this is going. Senators can object.
Refusing to work with bolster Republicans and make them look like the good guys, that's so silly. You're so wrong. Walk out on quorum call is the stupidest idea I've ever heard, respectfully. Yeah, we have to keep working with the Republicans because then they'll look like a bad guy. What are you saying? When have Republicans ever worked with the Democrats? They don't. The people are begging the Democrats to actually fight back against the Republicans. Even if what you're saying was completely unpopular, it would still be the right thing to do. But luckily, it's also not unpopular. It's a popular thing to do. Partisanship is the name of the game. Yeah, working with them on every single literal issue has been so fruitful so far. That's why their popularity is historically low. You know, like the bipartisanship on the Laken-Riley Act. You'll look mean.
To anything, any procedural step, any request, anything a Republican senator wants to do, no matter how small, cannot move forward if a single Democrat objects. Things will probably eventually move forward if the objection is like frivolous, for example, but when a senator objects, it starts down a rabbit hole of further procedural hoops that must be jumped through, including, for example, roll call votes, debates and delays. Democrats can take it a step further by using their entire allotted 30-minute debate time whenever it's available. It means zero fast-track confirmations. It means, again, making Republicans' jobs as hard as possible, as boring as possible, as tedious as possible. It's making their day-to-day work nearly impossible. Not completely impossible. They still have a majority. They'll still get things done, but the pace would be dramatically decreased. You know, we always complain about how it feels like Congress can't get anything done. Might as well make that fact work in our favor. Often, blocking unanimous consent and requiring quorum calls can go hand in hand. Typically, because senators need time to have informal discussions, negotiations, take time to figure things out, they will pause work on the floor of the Senate by...
Like, the saddest part about it, this isn't even... Like, this is below bare minimum. Okay? Like, that's what's so crazy about it. It's below bare minimum. Like, this is what you should be doing already, and then we should get mad at the fact that you're not doing more of it, okay? Like, procedural hurdles and obstruction across the board is literally not even expecting the Democrats to do their jobs. It's to expect the Democrats to do less than what their job is. A competent party on top of that would be trying to find bipartisan compromise in areas that actually suit the Democratic agenda. What are your thoughts on Asmongold talking about you promoting a terrorist propaganda clip? I don't know the story. Yeah, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got here.
By suggesting the absence of a quorum. This requires the clerk to then read out all 100 names and take a roll call. And the clerk will do that usually incredibly slowly on purpose, knowing that it's just being called to give senators time to discuss or until the next senator wishes to be heard. It's just part of the business of day-to-day operations in the Senate. You could go to senate.gov and click watch live Senate floor proceedings on any given day, and you'll see this in action. A senator will make their statement.
Yeah, here, look. Hakeem Jeffries met privately with Silicon Valley donors in a bid to mend the fences from Politico. Here's a remarkable quote that really gets to the heart of what mending the fences means in this context. There's a significant fear that these tech folks who have been with us for a long time will say, fuck it, we're going with the other guy, said Alex Hoffman, a Democratic donor advisor who works with donors across the country but did not attend the event. These donors are also pissed, watching former and current colleagues have unlimited unchecked power and getting richer off of this, and they're not. They're going back to their Silicon Valley boosters and saying, oh, please don't leave us to get the unlimited unchecked power from the Republican side. We will give that to you once we are back in office. This is the exact opposite of what the Democrats should be doing. We're completely hostage to the whims of capital. It is crazy.
And then suggest the absence of a quorum when they're done. That's
By the way, if you're wondering why they don't routinely shit on billionaires and become like a true populist, left populist party, that's the reason. Democrats could so easily turn around and behave at least like social democrats, right? I'm not expecting revolutionary Marxist principles out of nowhere. Okay? Just simply like a competent social democratic party that cares about expanding the existing welfare state and protecting areas that the Republicans are attacking, that will use left populism as a message. Okay? Ironically enough, people are sometimes confused when I say stuff like this. They're confused and think I am also a social democrat. I always maintain the position that I am perfectly comfortable and happy with social democracy in the interim, given how devastating American capitalism looks like, and given how limited the American left actually is in this country, where people have an inherently reactionary attitude towards any sort of socialist initiative. It's the Bernie method. If you listen to Bernie Sanders, while he simultaneously says that he is a democratic socialist or a socialist or an anti-capitalist, his advocacy revolves around social democratic principles for the most part. The reason for that is because he is trying to do as much harm reduction as he possibly can. That's it. And even then, he is treated like a radical.
Normal. The clerk will start calling names, but then when the next senator stands up and is ready to speak, they will request unanimous consent to end the quorum call. It will be granted, the senator will speak, and then they'll suggest the absence of a quorum again, and the clerk will once again start very slowly reading off the names. Anytime that unanimous consent is requested so a senator can speak, any Democrat can object, requiring a full roll call vote on whether or not to move forward. So they'd object to the senator asking for an end to the quorum call, triggering a full vote tally on whether or not to end the quorum call, which would require listing off every senator and taking their vote. And then if it's not unanimous, there could be a debate that follows. It could eventually lead to allowing the quorum call to finish, showing an absence of a quorum, grinding Senate work to a halt. Like, it would be so stupid and so boring. And they can just do that over and over and over. Anytime any Republican asks for anything to be done with unanimous consent. Again, things will eventually get done, but it will be so much slower and it will be so painful and so boring. The name of the game is block, delay, obstruct. The reason Democratic senators aren't already doing this, because you know that they could be, is the same reason why you wouldn't want to do it either. It's boring as It's also embarrassing because it goes against decorum and, the way we do things. So they'd have to make themselves look a little ridiculous by standing up and objecting to things no one ever objects to and that are actually pretty absurd to be objecting to in the first place. That's the point. Democrats always try to take the high road, to stick to the way things are, the rules and regulations, because they think it makes them seem more legitimate, more credible, because they're following the rules. That's
Surely the Dems are doomed to terminal decline. Isn't that a good thing? I mean, this is something that I talked to Michael from Pennsylvania, Central_Committee, in the lead up to the election. He has I guess, more positive outlook on this process. I do not. I just don't think that when the Democrats perish, that there will be a Labor Party that is born out of the ashes. I think that when the Democratic Party perishes, we just have, fascism, which is what's going on right now.
That's not the protocol right now, though. It's time to play dirty, and this is the best way to do it. The trick is to make sure that these senators are also communicating why they are doing it, so people don't look and see them gumming up processes and making a mess in the Senate and think, wow, what is wrong with this person? They aren't doing their job. Democratic messaging has to be, we are doing our job to protect this country from the complete takeover of fascist rule. This is how we do it without a majority or any power. We are slowing the process down for you. That needs to be the message. Okay, so we're blocking, we're delaying, we're obstructing. But how do we, as individual private citizens, use our voice to push the legislative branch, the one that's supposed to be answerable to us, to do what we want it to do? Well, much like we are asking our Democratic senators to do, we must also be annoying as hell for the good of the nation. That means that if you have Democratic senators, keep an eye on what they're doing and call them and tell them what I just told you. Send them the link to the indivisible explainer I linked in the sources. Tell them you expect them to vote no on everything. Push them to delay through playing procedural hardball. Show up to their state offices. Yes, your senator has an office in your state where you can go and make your voice heard. In-person visits are the most powerful way to influence them, especially if it's an in-person visit of you and 15 of your friends. Indivisible actually has a toolkit for that very act. I'll link that in the sources as well. If they do something you like, support them and cheer them on. If they do something you don't like, for example, my Senator Amy Klobuchar voted yes to confirm Trump's nominee for Veterans Affairs, going against the lockstep anti-Trump no votes that we need in our Democratic coalition. If they do something like that you don't like, you berate them.
Same with Marco Rubio. Like, even with Bernie Sanders, who voted to confirm Marco Rubio. Like, that's completely unacceptable. Like, what are we doing? And it's crazy to me that there is not, like, there is no motion whatsoever, no interest whatsoever from the Dems at all in dealing with that. And doing anything.
You'll be so annoying.
Yes, I'm familiar with David Graeber. He's great. Rest in power.
Call, email, show up, petition, nag them on social media, all of the above. And at the state and local level, you can also berate your elected officials to make sure that they're fighting against every MAGA move coming from the feds and implementing policies that will counteract the worst of it, like sanctuary policies and others that protect vulnerable communities. In fact, Indivisible has a whole guide with different directives depending on if your elected officials are Democrats or Republicans and what you can do to influence them. I will also link that in the sources. This isn't sponsored by Indivisible. They just have a lot of really helpful resources that I really leaned on for this episode. If the name of the game for Democrats is block, delay, obstruct, the name of the game for all of us, their constituents, is pressure, complain, annoy. For the good of our nation, we must all become the most annoying people on the face of the earth. It's time for you to rise to the challenge of being annoying as hell. And you can join me over on my Patreon community, where I just launched the Why America Co-Learning Lab, a learning community having discussions and making connections, along with a monthly syllabus curated by me. All year we'll be covering topics under the umbrella theme of Eat the Rich, building solidarity in the new Gilded Age. February's topic is all about how to build a movement even when you're feeling overwhelmed as hell. This is all hosted over on Patreon, which is linked down below. If you're interested, please join us, patreon.com/Leeja Miller. Thank you to my multi-platinum patrons, Sarah Shelby, Art, David, RH.
All right. Now we're going to move on to at least one aspect of the government that is resisting